Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 12 of Around the Payload, which is a high noon production. I am your host, the Blevins, and we have a star-studded crew here today. A lot of new faces, a couple of returning guests, and in Totem's case, someone who we've tried to get on the show for like since before the show started. And finally, the stars aligned to get you on here. But let's just jump right into this and introduce all of the guests. Like I mentioned before, we have Totemly Drunk here, host of the Overwatch League Network and Heroes Never Die. Thank you for finally coming on the show, sir.
Yeah, it's good to be here. You know, it's been a lot of conflict with schedules lately, but, you know, we did move one of my podcasts to Thursdays, and here I am, so glad to be here.
It's crazy. You'd think that, you know, people recording multiple podcasts and having Overwatch League play every other day of the week, you'd think we'd just be able to find time out of nowhere, right? Right?
Yeah, just pulling it out of thin air.
Yeah. Up next, we've got another new guest here. We've got Volamel, who is an Overwatch writer and analyst for Esports Heaven, Winston's Lab, and featured on Overwatch League Daily. Thank you for coming on the show, sir.
Not a problem at all. It's my pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
Woo. And of course, we also, to my bottom left, we've got that beautiful, beautiful mug. That is the Monkey Prince, of course, who is I want to say High Noon Podcast Discord expert. It's just every single time anything happens in any sort of obscure or mainstream way in Overwatch, it is immediately posted to the High Noon Podcast Discord, courtesy of the Monkey Prince. Thank you for coming back, sir.
Yep. Wonder how you found my picture. You stalking me?
I have a camera in your room right now. But last and certainly not least, here is quite possibly the most infamous guest on Around the Payload ever, and of course, host of the Blackwatch report. That, of course, is Thornrain. Thank you, sir, for coming back.
You mess up one time, and it hangs with you forever.
You know what,
I'm
Thorn?
glad to be back.
I feel for you. You know what? You're getting a pity point here right off the bat. I'm sure you're going to find a way to lose it as we go along. But before we start here, anyone who's new to the show, just want to explain this real quick. The show here is basically like Around the Horn from ESPN, but definitely different enough to not get asked to stop doing it. So shut up, ESPN. Screw you. I mean, I love you. But we're going to be talking about a lot of different stuff in Overwatch League. Every one of our guests is going to have a chance to chime in and give their opinions here. I, as the benevolent overlord, are going to be giving out points. You're going to hear sounds that sound kind of like this. And that, of course, is me giving out points. It is not your Overwatch League, your Overwatch match starting where you tried to auto-pick Brigitte and then AFK'd because you didn't get her in quick play. But without further ado, let's jump right in to round number one.
Round one. Capture the objective.
We're going to bring it up right in the beginning, and I know if Flame is somewhere watching, he's probably unsubscribing from High Noon Podcast here, but it's a pretty big sore thumb here. Tracer being a pretty big problem for Houston in the post game interviews. I believe it was either Moth or Dante, or maybe even both, saying that San Francisco Shock basically specifically exploited Tracer play by Houston. And there's Sideshow went on a whole rant in tweets about all these stats about how this, that, and the other thing about their Tracer. But Totem, I want to get your opinions here. Is Tracer really the problem here for Houston, or is it something else, or is it a combination of things?
Well, it's really a combination. I think overall, though, their Tracer play has been serviceable with Clockwork in the lineup, but Jake, you know, he's been struggling. We have seen, you know, some mechanical improvements from him overall, but he's not been able to really match what Clockwork has been doing. But I think really, when it comes to Tracer, the bigger issue from the Outlaws is just how they're dealing with the enemy Tracer. The enemy Tracers are just getting in the back line, and they're just getting completely shredded. So, you know, maybe, you know, with Brigitte coming in soon, maybe the Outlaws can finally deal with the Tracer moving forward. And who knows, maybe Coolmat can finally peel a little bit more, but, you know, that is assuming that he's not getting demeched. So,
yeah, another little shot here. Of course, we are assuming that Brigitte is probably not going to be here till earliest stage 4. But Volamel, what are your thoughts here? Is Tracer the issue here for Houston?
To kind of piggyback off that same point, I do think it is an issue, but I don't necessarily think it's the player itself, right? I think that Clockwork has shown that he actually is improved. I think that his showings in the stage 1 were a little bit middling, but I think stage 2 he's definitely stepped up. But not only that, I think their playstyle around Tracer has been something that even the Houston Outlaws players have struggled with. I think that it was Linkser and another player. It escapes me at this moment, but they've actually mentioned in a press release or a press
conference,
press
presser
press
at the
conference.
end.
That's the word. That they mentioned that playing around Tracer has been something that they've struggled with and kind of trying to find that kind of color. So I think it's more of the macro strategy that they're trying to find exactly how they want to play around Tracer and not so much of the player itself.
Makes sense. Thorn, what are your thoughts here on Tracer in Houston?
Right now, I think Houston is Houston's biggest problem. They got in their own heads when the meta changed. And I think that's where their biggest problem lays. You know, they do need a Tracer. Clockwork's good, but they need that next tier of Tracer. But not having a Tracer didn't stop them from getting to stage 1 playoffs. So instead of forcing a subpar Tracer play, why don't they take the assets that they have, focus on that, and figure out a way to shut down the other team's Tracer? But they're not doing that. They're trying to push their Tracer, you know, with Jake on it. You know, Jake can do fantastic things on Junkrat and Soldier. So figure out how to counter Tracer with a different hero. You just don't run the Tracer.
Yeah.
You know, you don't run a running back in the wide receiver spot in the NFL. You make your ground game better.
Right.
So take what you got and just make that better. Don't try to play subpar characters.
Yep. They're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, so to speak. But the Monkey Prince, last words here on Houston and Tracer.
It goes a bit like what Thorn was saying, but Houston essentially just needs to decide what they want to do. If they want to play a Tracer on their team, they need to decide who. Currently, Linkser, Clockwork, and Jacob all played Tracer. Mendo could potentially do it as well. Like, stop trying to play different ones and just choose one, play them as Tracer, and just do it if that's what you want to do it. Or, you know, let's say you want to use your current roster on other heroes, then pick someone else. Pick up Nene, pick up, you know, some other Tracer that they could get. You know, if that's what they want to do. Or, like Thorn said, you know, just work without a Tracer. Figure out how to counter Tracer best without having your own Tracer. Work a strategy around that. Just stop trying to do all 3 of those things at once, because on different maps, on different days, against different people, they're trying all of those things and just making all of them work. So just pick a decision, stick with it, and do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah, and it seems like they're and maybe Flame specifically here has kind of backpedaled himself and tried to defend a point that has been demonstrably wrong and is kind of sunken cost fallacying himself into a corner. But that's neither here nor there. That'll probably be a topic for another week, but let's move on. In an interview at South by Southwest, Nate Nanzer talked about the future of Overwatch League, and he actually touched a little bit on this, maybe not as specifically when we interviewed him on the show a few months back, about an ideal number of teams for Overwatch League. This time he said around 28 teams. So Volamil, we'll start with you here. Is that a good number? Like, how does that number stack up in your power rankings in terms of how many teams you'd like to see in Overwatch League?
I enjoy having a larger pool of teams, but I definitely think that you're going to have to split it up and really push the divisions aspect of what they're trying to make with this first season. I think it's a great staging ground, but coming into season 2, I expect there to be an expansion. I think that we've all heard rumors. We've all heard theory crafting about who is coming in, who might be interested. But I think that 28 teams is a large number, but it's going to be able to kind of encompass this global esports motif that I think that Blizzard's really trying to push. And they're going to be able to divide it up into Asia, Europe, North America, and they're going to be able to capture those time zones much more effectively than what they are now. So I like it, but you got to divide it up.
Yeah, I know all of our EU listeners are like, please do this. We want EU time. We want EU friendly times for games. But Thorn, what are you thinking here? Is 28 a good thing, bad thing? What do you think?
28, not a good thing. If you break up the 28 into 4 divisions, you got 7 teams. It's an odd number of teams. Just take it up to 32. 32 will give you, what is it? 2 conferences with 2 divisions in each, 8 teams in each conference. I'm sorry, 8 teams in each division. And then it's split evenly. You drop 8 on the West Coast, middle of America, take the other middle of America in the East Coast, you got another 8. Then you go over to Europe, you grab 8 there, and then you got 8 over in the APAC. We're talking Australia, Korea, Japan. It just makes more sense that way. If you go 28, you got 7 teams. Okay, it'll work, but it's not the most efficient. You're going to have awkward schedules. You could drop it down to 24, but then you got less teams. I want to see 32 teams, 2 conferences with 4 divisions, 8 teams across.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and I thought the same exact thing, but it almost seems a little bit different. Or it seems like 28 might work better even in that scenario because of how Blizzard has done their stage playoffs, so it's only the top 3. But I don't know, they're basically making up their own math as they go along. But that's Blizzard. But Monkey Prince, what are you thinking here about 28 teams?
Yeah, about 20 is a 32 will also be fine. I think that I think it's a good number to aim for because, I think it'll slowly increase it over the years. So maybe next year we get, 4 more teams, probably almost exclusively in Europe and Asia. And maybe next year 4 more teams and just slowly expand because while I would love there's 100 teams, that's not going to be can't do that the second year, So I think 32 is good to aim for, just keep that nice, manageable number. It's about how many other leagues have in America. But maybe you get to 32 teams in 2023-ish, and then they realize, oh wait, we have way more demand. There's enough demand in South America and more in Australia, more in all these other regions, and they find out they do have the demand to expand. Then they can expand it further beyond that, but don't go in with grand ambitions and then fail on them. Do something small first, and then if it works, expand, take it slowly.
For sure. Totem, last words here on the vision that Nate Nanzer has for the Overwatch League.
I'd say 28, in my opinion, is a bit of a stretch, kind of comparing it to traditional sports. We have 30 to 32 teams, whether it's NBA, NHL, NFL. I would think 24 would be a little bit more in line just because, right now we only have 12. You're talking about doubling your size on top of, adding 4 more teams on top of that. And, with that franchise tag, getting an increase for Season 2, who knows what the landscape is going to be moving. But I feel like for now, we just need to get that infrastructure in place, get more sponsorships. That way we can supplement all of this talent from the Tier 2 scene into the Overwatch League. But for right now, I think 28's a little bit out of the question.
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings. Obviously, I want to see 1,000 teams in some ways, but I also think it's probably a hard sell to future investors if you're like, well, you're going to be one of 100 different teams. 28 is probably the magic number that they need to pitch to these multi-billion-dollar corporations. But we will move right along and talk about the LA Gladiators. Man, where in the world did they come from? It seemed like Fissure was like, hey guys, the light switch is over here. Let's turn this on. And they really have started to really dominate in the past coming weeks. So Thorne, the question here is simple. Are Gladiators the real deal?
Yes, I really think they are. With the addition of Fissure, it leveled up their tank line, which then opened up space for all of their DPS. And it's crazy what that one player did. And with just Fissure alone changed them from a mid-tier to they're fighting for playoff spot right now. There's a very good chance that they're going to get that. And Fissure came in and said, hey, we're going to do it this way. This is the way we're going to run the tank line. We're going to peel. We're going to give space and we're going to protect our healers. And they're just going out there and they're doing work. I said it before the season started because I like purple. I'm shields up. I'm shields up right now too.
Definitely. The shields up chant is definitely one of the stronger chants in the Overwatch League right now. But Monkey Prince, is it the real deal here? Are we going to see Gladiators vying for a playoff spot next stage? Are they going to be able to make a playoff run, a season playoff run here in these next few stages?
I definitely think they're the real deal. And yes, Fisher was extremely important. You can't deny that. You can talk about his leadership, you can talk about his mechanical skill, you can talk about all the things he brought to the team. But a lot of people talk about that. I want to talk about the DPS. Because the DPS are also really key in this, and that in the first stage, like Asher Asher looked pretty bad in the first stage up, and then Hydration looked fine, but he didn't look amazing. In the second stage, like all three of the DPS have been amazing. And not only that, but they're basically plug and play. Like they're basically equal skills, so no matter what strategy you want to run, you plug in Asher Shirt for or Ash Hydration or Shirt for Hydration. Like depending on what you want, you can play any of them, which gives them tons of flexibility. It can lead to tons of unpredictability, and just that flexibility they've had in the DPS line, as well as the addition of Fissure, means that they've done really well against teams.
For sure. Totem, your thoughts here on Gladiators?
I'm actually going to disagree here. I don't think they're the real deal, and here's why. Yes, Fissure has been a huge addition to this team, and it's been pretty instrumental to their current success, but they're relying very heavily on him. They're basically putting all of their eggs in one basket. And the problem with that is that they run the risk of going to the well too many times with this. They are relying a lot on, kind of keeping their opponents on their toes. We kind of saw some really wonky team compositions coming out, especially on Ruins, where they kind of swapped everyone around, and it's only going to be a matter of time before their opponents are going to be able to get a read on this. And as soon as someone is able to shut down Fissure, then that DPS isn't going to have the space. And based on how Bishu has been playing on the D.Va, kind of being in the middle of the pack there, he's not going to be able to really protect Fissure at that point. So I expect at that point, we'll start to see Gladiators kind of, trail a little bit, kind of going back to a middle of the pack type team.
Well, one way or the other, it is definitely exciting to watch now. But Volamil, what side are you on here? Are you breaking the tie here, or do you think that they're not there?
I gotta go shields up with this, and to kind of piggyback off of Totem's point, I do agree with the Bishu criticism. I think that he is probably the 1-2 target if you want to target people on this team. But the one thing that I think that a lot of people are sleeping on is the support line. This is some of the best support players from Europe. Now they're wrapped up in a nice, pretty bow with one of the best tank players legitimately in the world. Married with very, very flexible DPS players. This team, barring a few changes here and there, will be a consistent stage playoff, barring any kind of drastic meta changes. I hold me to that because I think it's very true.
Well, we certainly will. I mean, it's hard to rally against a goose of that size. But that is going to bring us to the end of stage one. I say it all the time, but this is definitely a very close one. And of course, it's anyone's game here. We've got tied for third place here. We got Volamil and Thorn with 14 points. We got Monkey Prince with 15 points. And we've got Totem leading the pack here with 16 points as we go into round number 2.
Round 2. Capture the objective.
We will continue the conversation on LA Gladiators, but this one is maybe still talking about the tanks in a way, but off the field here. The long and short of it here, if you haven't heard about the shoulder gate controversy, is that the coach for LA Gladiators, Deepay, basically bumped into or ran into or hip checked or tackled. I don't know what actually happened, but the two of the Houston Outlaws players, and he made a public apology after the fact for bumping into them. He said he did it in person too. I don't know what to take about this. That's why I'm bringing it up here. Monkey Prince, what are your thoughts on this whole shoulder gate thing? Should it have been brought up publicly? Break this down for us.
I mean, if the situation happened like they said in the thing, where he sort of just bumped into them as he was walking, then no, it should never gone public. They should just apologize, which he said he did, just kept it within there, didn't become public at all. But as some rumors have suggested, that if it was a more serious incident where it's he purposely hip checked them or shoved them or somewhat more physical with them, then yes, it should have been a public apology, but not like this, because this was just confusing, and everyone was just confused when they saw it. It's if you're gonna apologize for something that happened, explain what happened first. This just left everyone not knowing what happened.
Yeah, it was I still am dumbfounded by it. But Totem, is there any more clarification or thoughts here on Shouldergate?
Yeah, this was really bizarre. At first I was well, I thought esports wasn't meant to be a contact sport, or did something kind of get lost in translation here? But, just based on, some of the recent controversies that we have seen, I think an apology was warranted for this, regardless of whether this was an accident or if it was done intentionally, like body checking someone. And, we've kind of been going into like this TMZ-esque drama lately. And they don't want to be put into a situation where let's say you're backstage and someone else is back there and they see this happen. They don't want that person to kind of misread what is going on because, let's be honest, people fabricate stories all the time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past anyone to do something with this story and like try to spin it where like DPay is trying to like intimidate the other players to get an advantage for his team or anything crazy like that.
I mean, for what it's worth, as long as he didn't physically assault them, I'm fine with intimidating to try to get an advantage for your team. Like stare him down, look at him, like puff up the chest, just like, I don't know. But Paul Mill, any additional thoughts here on Shouldergate?
I did think it was a little strange to kind of re-echo the point. When I did rate it, it seemed very Korean-esque. It seemed kind of grovelly in a sense, like, oh, it was just a shoulder bump. What harm is that really doing? But there are reports kind of servicing, and we have to wait to see if they're necessarily valid and whatnot. But maybe this was a little bit more offensive to kind of bring up the football reference. Maybe this was more of a tank lineup. We don't necessarily need backstage brawls, but who's to say that actually happened? If it was just a harmless bump, no, I don't think you need to apologize. But if it was something a little bit more, I think that should have been clarified in the apology that maybe there was a little bit of a scuffle. So I think that there needs to be overall just more clarity. But if it was just harmless, then just leave it at harmless.
Yeah, I wish that they would have gone into like drastic detail. He's like, I'm very sorry that I RKO'd the two members of the Houston Outlaws. Just like over the top, like stupid apology. That would have been great. I would have immediately jumped ship to the LA Gladiators. But Thorne, last words here on Shouldergate and this whole kerfuffle.
Hey, there's not a whole lot to say against what anybody else said because it's weird. Like, why say anything? I think there might be a little bit more to the story than what we actually know, and until it comes out, we can't fully discuss it. But I mean, it was backstage. I don't think that he should have did a written apology on the Overwatch League website. I mean, okay, throw something up on your Twitter, maybe like tag the players that you bumped into in it.
Yeah.
But like, it almost seems like maybe it was a little more on the offensive, like was said, and someone from the league said, whoa, hey, you might need to post something about that. But no fans knew about it.
Yeah.
Like, there was nobody even questioning it. It just came out of nowhere. So I don't think he should have said anything. No one would be talking about it.
Right.
Because it was nothing until he made it something.
I think it was Monty who tweeted out after this came out that was like, why didn't you just go up and say sorry in person and leave it at that? Like, you made it weird, dude. It's like, I don't know. I think anything short of him like stone cold stunnering the two players and like breaking out a steel chair and smashing them upside the head, I think probably should have just been left to an in-face apology. But let's move on. We've kind of alluded to it a bunch. Stage 2 playoffs are happening this week after the regular season match or week 5 matches. We're going right into the Stage 2 playoffs on Sunday. So I'll put it simple. Totem, who do you have for the Stage 2 playoffs here?
All right, well, going from, top seed to the bottom, I have New York Excelsior taking the top seed. They have a pretty easy week. I have London taking a second, and I have Seoul taking the third one over the Gladiators. So, NYXL, London, they have really soft opponents, so this should be a pretty easy pickup for them. And really, like, when I look at the Dynasty and the Gladiators, I think the Dynasty have a better shot at just winning outright here because, they're facing the Outlaws who have been struggling. They can't deal with the Tracer, as we talked about, so I expect a 4-0, and I think the Mayhem might take a map off of Seoul overall. But you look at the Gladiators matches, and they face Philadelphia and Boston. These are two teams that have upset potential, and with the amount of looks that Philadelphia has been throwing people, we really don't know what they're going to be running, and I feel like that's going to be enough to kind of play the spoiler for the Gladiators to make it into the playoffs here. So that first match of the week is going to ultimately be the downfall for LA.
Man, what if they just randomly threw out Shadowburn this week? Like after having not shown him at all, they just left him. Bavalma, what are your thoughts here? Anything different for your stage playoff predictions?
No, I do have to echo the same point. I do think that the three big Korean teams, the three giants, are going to be able to cinch those spots. But in terms of who is going to perform in the playoffs themselves, my money has to be, I hate to say it, is going to be probably London, I think.
Boo. I'm not taking points away. I stopped punishing people for rooting against New York, but I am booing you.
So I do think that New York has some of the biggest potential, but I think that we're seeing London really grow into their bench. And we know that they have a crazy deep bench. They even signed Tizzy from Runaway. So I think that if they continue with that trend and they continue with playing how they are, Prophet, Berging, Gesture, they have some of the best coordination, bring in that bench, tie them in with that coordination, it's going to be tough for anybody to compete.
I mean, they definitely have one of the best teams to play the second time against a team of any team in the league. They are very good at countering strategies. But Thorn, anything different here? Are you shields up for the playoffs?
Yes, mine is different. I have XL and London both taking the 1 and 2 respectively. Seoul has 2 very easy matches coming up. It's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to win there too, and have that 3rd rank spot. But the Gladiators basically just have to win. I mean, if I'm doing my math correct, even if Seoul 4-0s both Miami and the Outlaws, that will put them at a tie if the Gladiators win 3-1. So what happens? Do we, because it'll be, I think 26-1-12, I think is what it would be. I don't have the numbers up exactly in front of me right now, but running the numbers, it looked like we could potentially see a tiebreaker. I don't know if that's how it works.
I think it goes to probably like opponent's map win percentage, so it would depend on who each team didn't play, I think, like for the 2nd or 3rd tiebreaker, whatever it is. I don't know, but it would be nice to
go
to something funky.
This debacle out of the way in stage 2. It'd be cool to see that.
Yeah.
But I'm fully confident that they'll get 3 wins against Philly, and they'll get 3 wins against Boston. They've been looking better again. Later in the stage, they start to look a little bit better, but I don't think they're going to get past the Gladiators. Fusion scares me a little bit, but I got Gladiators taking that 3rd spot by a differential of 1 map.
And as they say, almost as much as I say it's anyone's game, every map matters. But Monkey Prince, last words here. What are your picks here for stage 2 playoffs?
Of course, New York and London as the first 2, and I do have Gladiators the 3rd. But I did check your math, and I think if Seoul does 4-0 both teams and Gladiators 3-1s both teams, then Seoul will win by one map potential. But with that said, I still think Gladiators would take it, because they not only are they just a really good team right now, but they also have a lot of momentum. And I feel like if you factor in, I feel like they are just going to take those silly boss games and say, look, we're getting into the stage playoffs. We've just won tons of games. We're the ones that are going to do it. I feel like they sort of have that mentality, sort of like Houston in stage 1, where they had that massive winning streak. They sort of had the momentum, and that sort of carried them to beat London. I mean, they'll still win later, but they beat him in the regular season.
Right.
And so I feel like the same thing will happen with Gladiators. And I also trust Houston and Mayhem. Even with Houston being bad, Mayhem's looking better. I think at least one of them will steal a map off the Seoul, and I'd say probably both of them will at least maybe tie at least. So it will be 3-0, not a 4-0. So I really think Gladiators have that momentum, and I trust the teams to take some either map or a tie from Seoul. So I think Gladiators have it for the 3rd spot.
Yeah, Gladiators are definitely in a slightly better position in terms of map differential than Seoul is, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see. For my money, I think I've got Gladiators here, and I think they might even make it to the finals, honestly. But it's going to be good matches of Overwatch, one way or the other. But we'll move on. Last question here of round number 2. We got the announcement that Overwatch League season tickets costing $600 right now for the rest of the games, which I guess is it's technically a price break, right? If you're going to go to all the games anyway, they're what, $20 or $30 depending on the day. There's still a half of a season. Now, this doesn't include playoff tickets, but it does give you a better chance to get playoff tickets. And I think you also get a cool like Soldier 76 statue signed by a team. So that's kind of cool. But Valma, what are your thoughts here on this season ticket thing? What does it mean for now? What does it mean for the future of Overwatch League? What are you thinking about it?
So I'm really washy on this. Like, I'm trying to put myself in the fans' perspective here. And like, if I was, native to LA, if I was, really into Overwatch League as I am, would I be willing to spend the $600 and go every day to really kind of make it worth my while? And I can't imagine that everybody would be able to make it to every single event. So I think that it's probably even worth it to just buy it at the door. So no, I don't think that the $600 price point is enough. I can't necessarily compare it to traditional sports because I never was like really into, football or hockey. I never really went to much. So I can't really compare it there, but just from like a fan perspective, a lot of these kids like 18 to probably 20, so they don't have a ton of expendable cash. So I can't imagine that these are going to be very popular, but who knows?
Yeah, it's. Again, I'm trying to think. I don't know. I didn't do the math, but I'll leave that to you guys to parse it out. But Thorne, what are your thoughts here on this $600 half of a season ticket promotion?
I mean, I think it's actually a great deal. If you run the math for 2 stages, it's $900 if you pay for every game at the door. So you're getting the rest of the season for 2/3 of the price. You're getting a sweet Soldier statue. You're getting first run at playoff tickets. I mean, you're locking up a bunch of extras. And I mean, if you have the time to go, you're locked in. And then if you don't, you can sell the tickets that you don't use. I mean, I was a Cleveland Gladiators Arena football season ticket holder, and when we didn't go, we could sell our tickets. So yeah, you miss a weekend, you make 90, maybe $100 if it's a exciting weekend.
Yeah, I mean it goes in the same sort of vein as buying season tickets for any sport, I suppose. But Monkey Prince, what are your thoughts here on this promotion?
I think it's fine. Like, obviously, most people are not going to go to all of the games, but like, even if you're going to like, if you're going to the majority, like most of them, then it will still be a pretty good deal. And it's like, will this be extremely popular? No, because obviously most people are not going to be able to go to all the games because there's tons of them. But like, so you are someone who happens to go, then it's a good deal. It's like, if you aren't going to go to most of the games, then don't buy it. That product isn't for you. I mean, the whole point of it is that you're getting all of the games. So if you're only planning to go like a little, some of the time, then just don't buy it. Like, just buy the regular thing.
Yeah, for sure. Totem, last words here. Would you be buying this if you were in the LA area?
I think I would be. I mean, just to kind of compare it to what ticket prices are looking in like the NFL for like season tickets. That averages out to about $172 per game, and with 8 home games a year, you're looking at $1,376. So that's a pretty big difference between the two. So not only are you getting that, you're seeing your team play 10 times on the stage on top of all of the other games as well, plus the statue. I mean, it's really a no-brainer. Even if you do the $600 one for without the restrictions, or you do the $100 one, which only has the weekday one. You don't have to go to like 5 days in order to pay for that one. So I think it's a pretty good deal overall, but who knows what it's going to look like when we actually do have like home stadiums for our actual teams.
Yeah, all I know is that if Overwatch League was in Buffalo, I would be snapping this deal off faster than anything imaginable. Like, or even if it was in Toronto, I would be doing it. Not even close. It's not even close to close. I'd be $600 lighter in the wallet right now. But that does bring us to the end of round number 2, and of course, this one's really close. It is definitely anyone's game here. We've got Volmel slightly behind here at 30 points, and then we have a 3-way tie in first place with 32 points for everyone else, totally the Monkey Prince and Thornrain. So, man, this one's heating up as we go in to round number 3.
The payload is approaching its destination.
This, of course, is the buy or sell round here. Buy meaning agree, sell meaning disagree for those of you who are new listeners. And oh, believe me, I will be calling people out when they forget to buy or sell. So don't you worry. We'll start with Thorn here. Obviously, we know Sinatra has unlocked, so to speak. His birthday was a couple of days ago. He is theoretically at least able to play. So buy or sell here, the San Francisco Shock being a real team with the addition of Sinatra.
Rent.
I don't know if I can accept that as an answer.
Hold on.
All right, you got a chance.
So it could end up like Fisher, where he comes in and it takes the team up a notch. I mean, we know that he is a better Tracer player than what they currently have. He's like the best in the world, basically. But we don't know if it's going to cause issues, with the lineups or how they play, So that's why I went with the rent. But if we're going just based off of him coming in being mechanically fantastic at Tracer, soft buy.
Man, no one likes to buy for real anymore. I'm giving you your points, don't worry, but no one likes to commit anymore. That's okay, though.
Don't worry, I will later.
Yeah, when we started asking if Kefri should be in the Overwatch League, I know you'll be buying that one real hard.
Hard buy.
Monkey Prince, buying or selling the San Francisco Shock post Sinatra, which I don't know how to spell, and I spell it wrong every single time.
I would buy this. It's just not necessarily because Sinatra himself, he's like amazing. I mean, he is really good. But like, if you look at sort of just pre-Sinatra, it's like they just got Moth. He's an improvement over Dak because he feeds less. Nomi's been looking better. Dante's been playing, well. I mean, and so when you add Sinatra onto that, it's like it is another half step adding up into a bigger improvement for Shock. I think where they all are going to be really solid. Where you have a better DPS line. You could possibly run Sinatra, Tracer, Dante, Genji. Maybe for like an impact stuff like Widow. You have star tank line. Nobody's doing better. You have a better support line. You have Moth. Just all these little things that added up into a bigger improvement that just improved the Shock as a whole.
For sure. Totally, you buying or selling the Shock after they get Sinatra here?
I have to sell. So Sinatra, he's going to be a decent addition, but I don't think he's going to make as big of a splash for the Shock that a lot of people are expecting him to. I think that honor would have to go to Super, which is pretty much their jack of all trades on this team. While Sinatra is an upgrade over Dante, mechanically speaking, Dante's been doing very serviceable on the Tracer. But Sinatra, the thing that people forget is he has a lack of LAN experience, and that's definitely going to come into play. The nerves are going to get to him just like they did in the World Cup, and, it's only going to be a matter of time before he starts bickering about losing Tracer 1v1s due to, someone having a Harmony orb.
For sure. And for what it's worth, I have literally bought a lot of stock in Super in my fantasy league. So that is definitely a buy for me. But Valmil, last words here. Are you buying or selling the Shock after we unlock Sinatra?
So I do enjoy a lot of those points. I do appreciate a lot of them, and it's really made me think. And I have to sell for the wrong reasons, right? So it's going to be a mild sell, right? Now, I think that Sinatra comes in, he brings the Zarya, he brings, the Tracer play, which they already have. They have Dante, like Totem kind of already mentioned. But I think the bigger picture, the bigger kind of signing here has been Architect. This kid has been carving Korea a new, lots of words to put there, but I'm going to spare you. He's been carving Korea up nonstop. He plays Junkrat. He's probably most known for his Genji, probably one of the top 5 Genjis in the world, maybe. But he's really good. They need a projectile. He fills that role. I think if they can play around him and they can kind of mold their team and incorporate him really well, the team's going to blow up.
So that was see, Thorn, that was how you soft buy or sell. You can't just be like wishy-washy here. Don't worry, I didn't take any points away from you. It's okay. But let's move on. Similar question here, but for a different team. Shanghai Dragons, not Shanghai Dynasty. I didn't say it wrong. Shanghai Dragons here obviously have a lot of new players coming in. They also have players who, for a variety of TMZ level reasons, may or may not be coming back to Overwatch League or are gone for an undisclosed amount of time. And side note, this reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons where they made the softball team and like Ozzie Smith falls off into oblivion and Ken Griffey gets gigantism. Like the Shanghai Dragons are just going off into places. They're all gone. But they're bringing new players in. We've got two of their players, Fearless and Ado, I believe, are in the U.S. right now, or at least en route to the U.S., being able to play potentially. So, Monkey Prince, we'll start with you. Buying or selling the Dragons post additions?
I'm buying. Like, look at who they picked up. They picked up, to summarize, you got Fearless and Gahuri on the tank line. You got Ado as a DPS, and then you got Sky, who's also known as Zhu Fenjun, as a support. And it's like, that is a lot of pickups they made. It's like, you have Fearless and Gahuri are much stronger tank line. It's one of the weakest parts of the Shanghai Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're a big improvement. You got Sedado. He brings an actual Genji to the team. You know, he also play Tracer. So, you know, Dia isn't on Trace jail. And you got Sky, who just was like one of the best supports in China. You know, there's a lot of questions why he wasn't picked up. So, just it may take a while from the gel. So I wouldn't say like immediately they're going to do amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like halfway through stage 3 or something like that, they start really picking up, especially since some of them are Korean. But I think like on the overall, like season or like many seasons, they would do a lot better.
Man, I think the initial investors in the Shanghai Dragons might want to have a talk with you if there's someone that's actually willing to buy the Shanghai Dragons here. Toto, are you also following the Monkey Prince's lead and buying the Shanghai Dragons post editions here?
I want to buy. I can't. I have to sell. While I agree, like these new additions are a considerable upgrade over their Chinese counterpart.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take a lot of time for these players, one, to adjust to being in LA, because we've already seen some players really struggling to get, acclimated to, a new environment.
Mm-hmm.
Players are getting homesick, things like that. They also have to learn how to communicate, since, you have Chinese players and Korean players all come together, and regardless of what the lineup is going to look like, there's still going to be communication issues there. And then, regardless, they don't have enough new additions to basically patch up all of the holes that are in their game currently. Mm-hmm. Yes, their tank line is going to be a lot stronger with Fearless and Kagiri, but they're still going to have free fill, more than likely, on the Lucio or 5 game. Who knows? But their support line just isn't going to be enough, I still feel like, at the end of the day. So I'm not buying Ninja.
Yeah, the support line for Shanghai Dragons definitely has some of the smallest geese I know of. But Follow Mill, buying or selling the new and maybe improved Shanghai Dragons?
So if I did my economics homework correctly, this is a buyer's market all day, every day. They can't go anywhere but up. So why not buy? You're here, you're bringing in a ton of talent from Korea. Yes, they're going to struggle early on, but I think if you're aiming for that long-term investment, this is the team you want to invest in. Are they going to be a playoff contender? Are they going to be a stage playoff contender? Probably not, but the talent should elevate them up quite considerably. I mean, again, you've got Giguri. She fills MG's role. I'm not a big fan of MG. He's been kind of a question mark. His Roadhog's all right, but we need someone to play the Diva. We need someone to play the Zarya if you want to run tanks on King's Row. She's probably one of the most notable, Zarya players in the world, just based off of notes. But outside of that, yeah, I'm buying all day, every day. I've got a Chinese Overwatch World Cup jersey in my closet, so every day.
Well, I have a shirt that is signed by the whole Chinese team that I didn't realize was signed until 8 hours after wearing it, and Bare Hands pointed it out to me, and I looked like an idiot. But that's a story for another time. Thornrain, last words here: buying or selling, and we'll put it here. You can't rent here. Buy or sell the Shanghai Dragons, new and improved.
And that was rent to own, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
Just saying.
Twitch chat edits, of course.
No, I'm also going to buy here. The additions, plus the fact that they are playing Fuel week 1. Fuel week 1.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, Bob and A. Smith. That's almost going to be a fun match to watch because we are going to possibly see the Dragons win their first match. And the confidence coming off of that, it's going to lift their spirits. Right now, you look at them on stage, they look like a broken group of players. They do. They just don't look happy. That one win can change everything. And I think Fuel's going to be that win. And then I'm not saying that they're going to be like playoff or anything, but maybe 2 more wins throughout the rest of the stage. So I'm buying. This is their time to get out of that Browns.
Yeah. I just like how everyone wants to buy 3 wins in the Overwatch League. Like, you don't have to buy it. But I like the points you
sell
made.
high.
Yeah, but okay, I'm not going to go into the whole economics of it. I like the points you made. I'm certainly not buying anything except for maybe an actual Dragons jersey because they have a cool logo. But let's move on. This week we had a question that many people have had answered in regards to Pine. So we went in and talked with the staff and management and the players and found out that Pine's basically not been playing because he's not been feeling well. And notably and specifically not because he's sick, but because he's been lethargic or sluggish and not feeling up to play. So I have a very biased opinion, but I get a weird feeling here. So Totem, are you buying or selling this whole Pine not playing because he's sleepy?
This is a tough one. I buy into it mainly because, you know, you got to look at the player mentality here. You know, if Pine isn't feeling like he has it right now, you don't want to put him in the game right now, regardless of what the playoff picture is looking like for New York right now. You know, he just needs some time away. And really the last thing you want as a player is to have that seed of doubt in the back of your mind, because when you're in your own head at that point, all that's going to do is lead to you making mistakes when you're in the game. And for Pine, you know, that could be whether, you know, playing too aggressively or overextended and just getting punished. So, you know, he just needs some time, step away a little bit, recharge, and then, you know, he'll come back, you know, with that Undertaker role like he had prior. So
for sure. I like it a lot. Volmel, thoughts here on Pine? Are you buying or selling this whole Pine not being able to wake up before the matches?
I gotta say that I am kind of selling, and this is just based on previous kind of, you know, reports from players not being played. You know, like you look at Gamsu, yeah, he might have been sick, but why do you have to go to Korea to get a doctor? Maybe it's a family doctor, maybe it's a health insurance thing. Who knows, really? But I can't say that without my own suspicions. You know, you know, he has been one of the better hitscan players on this team. Yes, Sabiolby fills that role. Yes, Libero has a lot of heroes that he can play from, but none of them have really been that great in terms of the hitscan role. His projectiles are fine.
I was gonna say his Hanzo is top tier.
Yes, he is probably the best Hanzo in the world when it comes to that. But in terms of just Soldier, McCree, Widow, those are all Pine's role. If you did want to play him, and if he is just a little sleepy, what's a little coffee? What's some G Fuel? You know, shout out to G Fuel.
Oh, like it.
Get him in there.
Pandering.
That's fine. The only thing that you can pander is to the delicious sugar-free value of G Fuel. Use the promo code High Noon to check out. We're not actually sponsored. I don't know why I keep doing this bit, but Thorn Rain, are you buying or selling Pine, Sleepy Pine here?
I'm going to sell. Look, I'm old, I'm overweight, and I work 8, 9, 10 hours a day, 5 hours on Saturdays for overtime. I work 6 days a week most weeks, and I get up and I do it. I just do it. Now I know that they have a lot riding on him doing well, but the only way you get out of a rut is fight your way out of the rut. You get in there and you work through it, man. Like, and I have all faith that Pine can turn it around. He just needs that boost. He needs to get in there, and he needs to pop some heads. That's what he needs to do. Not hang out and be sluggish. Just come back, man. I want to see you on some Ilios.
Yes, I like it. Someone clip that because we need to send that to Pine. But excuse me, Monkey Prince. Last words here. Are you buying or selling the sluggish pine here?
I'm definitely buying this. This is gonna happen eventually, where some player just fell down, or is homesick, or just otherwise like not because of sickness, just wasn't able to play. And it's like it shows how important having a good roster is. And it's like, look at New York. They have Sabubi and Libero, who can perfectly well play basically any team and do well against them, and just have played basically any hero combination and do well against them. And it's like, so you don't need. He's already a substitute. You're already only playing him for like one map of a series at max anyway, maybe two. So, and especially for a player like Pine, where it's like he's very emotion based. Like he's the player. It's like when you're feeling well, you go him and he just dominates the team, lands all the headshots. You know, he just takes over the server. Like that style of play doesn't work when you're not feeling well. Like if anything, he's gonna go and do well, and he's just gonna have the reverse happen, where it's like, I'm doing poorly, I can't do this, and then he's feeling worse, and so he plays poorly. And it's like, no, wait for him to get back on track. Wait till he, is feeling good, and then put him back. Once he's feeling well, put him back on a game where he's feeling confident. Dominates Ilios and just gets back on his feet. It just takes time.
Yeah, a lot of good points on both sides, honestly. I think there's definitely a fusion here. So I actually, thinking back of it, Rent probably would have been a good option here. I'm sorry, I had to throw that in there. But we're going to move on to the very last question here, and I'm going back to a tradition that I started a few weeks ago but didn't follow through with, but I'm going to try to get it back here. We're ending the segment on a meme question here, and we had a new segment of Overwatch League brought up, and that was MLG's what was it? It wasn't Cribs,
Pads.
but it was Pads. Yes, MLG's Pads, which is a spoof of MTV's Cribs, and it was Sideshow living in the Philadelphia Fusion treehouse for 7 days, and they did a little like mini fake documentary type of thing. So Valmo, we'll start with you here. Buy or sell the whole treehouse living thing, these funny silly segments? Like what are your thoughts here, buying or selling them?
So when it comes to the entire desk and who they've signed for the talent, and I need to catch up on some points, so I got to come with the heat. So I'm selling. I need Bren. I need Bren to bring this boy back in. He needs to cuddle him, take that silly energy from him, because Bren's supposed to be the silly one. I need some serious analysis on the desk. I don't need Sideshow breaking his arm. Bren makes him look calm.
That is a good point. That when someone makes Bren look calm, that is definitely an interesting dynamic, to say the least. But Thornrain, buying or selling the treehouse bit and those types of bits here?
I'm buying it. First and foremost, who hasn't wanted to live in a treehouse? I mean, come on. I've wanted to since I was a little kid. That's like the dream. But outside of that, I mean, anything Sideshow does is hilarious. Like, the dude is funny. I would like to see an actual Overwatch League cooking show with Brennan Sideshow. Just a little less picking up a pot with your mouth, Sideshow. You don't need to melt your face.
Definitely interesting. Monkey Prince, buying or selling here?
I am hard buying this. The more skits, the more jokes, the more things like this the original Overwatch League has, the better. It's more content, it's more getting to know the casters, it's more getting to know the players, and it's like also Sideshow had to do this because he was a bet, and it's like Sideshow is no coward. He follows up on his bets with Pocket, and it's like, to your comment, Volumel, it's like, no, Sideshow and Bren are both like the silly, foolish ones. It's reinforced the one that's what's like, when their house eventually becomes a sitcom, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to have Reinforce is going to be the straight guy, the Sideshow and Bren's like craziness, and Harsha, occasionally coming in as like the guest character.
All I know is that I want to be a once a season guest on that show. 100%. I think I would pay money to be on that show. But totally, last words here: buying or selling the antics of the treehouse?
I have to buy into this one. Sideshow is really bad when it comes to making these bets, but this meme has been an absolute gold mine. really the only thing that was missing from this entire segment that they aired was a live shot of Carpe swimming in the pool underneath, all the wordplay that we see on the analyst desk, during the league games. But, people are always talking about, like, well, I'm kind of getting tired of all the over talk when we're talking about the desk. And then they come out with, like, this original programming, and then there you go. Like, what are people going to complain about? That, maybe we're stuck in the 90s since they ripped on MTV? Who cares? This was absolute.
Yeah, and especially with the segment with Fraggy literally Reinhardting him out of the house so he couldn't get in. I would have liked to see a giant hammer for sure. But that is going to bring us to the end of the regular play, the end of the stage here. We are cutting to the top 2 for the stage playoffs, and this was definitely one of the closest ones we've had on the show thus far. In 4th place, ever so slightly, we had Thornrain at 51 points. Just literally 1 point ahead at 52 was Monkey Prince. And our 2 finalists here going into the final question are Totemly Drunk and Volamil here. Notably, Totemly Drunk is the 3rd member of Overwatch League Network to be in the finals of Around the Payload. And spoiler alert, well, I guess previous episode, spoiler alert, none of them have been able to close out. None of them have closed it out. So let's see how this one ends. Only time will tell. But as we go into this final question, remember, there are no points associated here. You're both going to get an equal shot to answer this question. You're not getting extra points for additional comments or whatever. You're each picking a different answer, and then I alone am choosing the final winner here. So we'll move into this final question. And the question is, which team do you see making the biggest splash into stage 3? So specifically a team that's either not been historically good, or like, you don't say, oh, well, I think New York Excelsior is going to make a big splash because they're the best team. Okay, we know that. You're not getting, if you pick New York Excelsior, you're not winning. I'll give you that. But which team that maybe hasn't made a splash or potentially could be better in stage 3, which team do you see making that splash into stage 3? A random coin flip has shown that Volamil, you are the first to answer here.
So, a team who is not been performing very well, that is struggling to make, middle of the pack and could do very well in stage 3, is going to be the San Francisco Shock for the myriad of reasons. There are many pickups. Sinatra coming in, filling out the kind of gaps in their sub-tank role. They're bringing in the projectile role. They're getting Super in. He legitimately is, people have told me he plays legitimately everything. We've seen him in LG Evil. He plays tank. He plays DPS. He does what he wants and how he wants to do it. And I think that Architect really is going to take this team and blow him up as long as they can incorporate him really well. That Genji play paired up with a Sinatra, DPS, a Dante Tracer, Baby Bay even comes in, plays the Soldier, plays the Widow. I think this team is going to be very scary, especially coming from the DPS side of things. So I think that they're going to be very contentious in terms of maybe like a 5th, 6th, maybe even a challenging for 4th. Maybe meta changes happen. They try to go for a stage playoffs, but my vote's for San Francisco.
That is definitely an ambitious pick that fits the requirements for the question. Totemly, your retorts and your pick here.
You want to talk about ambitious? I am going to pick the Florida Mayhem. So the addition of Ryder on that coaching staff has already paid dividends for this team. They're coming into the games with a better game plan in mind, and they've been executing on that. Logix has been, he's been popping off lately. He hasn't been making these really awkward hero swaps like he had been in the past, and Vic is playing the Tracer with a specific goal in his mind, and collectively, long gone are the days where one of them shows up and then the other one doesn't. They're both firing on all cylinders right now. And, looking at Zebo's side, he hasn't been the first to die in a lot of these fights like they have been in the past, which was a glaring issue for this team. So they've really started to turn things around. So I think right now, a lot of the wrinkles that were going into their teamwork have been kind of ironed out at this point, and it really showed in their last match against the Gladiators, who, a lot of people, at least here tonight, picked them as, making the playoffs this stage. So I think with the cleaner communications that we have heard from this team and the cleaner execution, I think that this team has a ton of potential going into stage 3.
Definitely two very good picks here and a lot of really great points made. I would like to note that if either of you would have picked NYXL, I would have actually chosen you as the winner, just so you know. I lied. Of course I'm going to pick NYXL because they are going to make the biggest splash. They're going to go from first to firster. But, man, I really so I think I think that Architect and Sinatra, really great. I think Super's an amazing player. I've loved him since Hammers Esports and LG Evil, but my heart always will live with the Plupster. And I truly believe that Florida Mayhem is actually going to make a big splash into Stage 3. So Totemly, you've broken the Overwatch League Network curse. The curse is broken. You can now hang it over your co-hosts' heads for now and forever. But Totemly, you are the official winner of episode number 12 of Around the Payload. The floor is yours. Sell out, chill out, shout out, whatever you want. The floor is yours, sir.
All right, well, I just want to point out the fact that OWLN is not the runaway of, Around the Payload anymore. I could remove the hashtag forever second. And, as you mentioned, I can kind of throw it in Slambo and Spider's face. And, it feels good to finally bring home a win because, I know if I didn't win this one tonight, they would have burdened me for the remainder of the time until one of us would eventually win, and then that person would have hung it over both of our heads. So it feels good.
Yeah, definitely. I know it's definitely nice to have something to hang over the head of your co-host, as I have been dominating in all the fantasy leagues that I'm in with Deathblow.
As have I with the pick'ems.
With pick'ems, yep.
I've been winning the entire season over them, and that's not going to change anytime soon.
For sure. But that is going to bring us to the end of the show, everybody. And as I say the end, we were at an hour, 1 minute. So give yourselves a round of applause. You have broken the record. I'm officially calling the show over now. Everything else is my fault. So you guys now hold the record for closest to the actual time for the episode that I wanted. But that is actually going to bring us to the end, guys. Remember, you can check out all the stuff that High Noon Podcast does over at highnoonpodcast.com, all the High Noon production shows there. And guys, remember, I'm going to have the links to everyone's Twitter here in the description below. Make sure you go follow all of them because they're doing a lot more content than just we are. Diversify, broad, and you probably know about a lot of them anyway, but make sure that you check out Totemly, Volamil, the Monkey Prince, and Thornraid. But for those guys, I'm the Blevins. Remember to check us out next week around the Payload. Bye-bye!